Thank you, friends. On behalf of the family, I want to thank everybody for joining us here at the chapel. I also want to welcome those of us who are joining on the live stream. In a moment, we are going to begin the service for Roberta, Mickey, Tandet Capsuto. Just a gentle reminder, if anybody has a cell phone, if we could take a moment to please turn it on silent. Officiating our service today is Rabbi Lisa Bellows and Rabbi Richard Press from Congregation Beth Am.
"92 and a half. And she wanted more time. Mickey was a mother, a grandmother, great-grandmother, sister, wife, treasured friend, and more to so many of us. Mickey was strong, independent, funny, smart, curious, a world traveler, a mahjong player, and a conversationalist. She knew what she wanted when she wanted it. She was giving and thoughtful, a proud Jew, an engaged citizen who fought for justice and equality. And of course, she was a lifelong Cubs fan. We were blessed to have Mickey in our lives. And even as we celebrate her life, it is with great sadness that we say goodbye to our dear Mickey. For Mickey's life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts.
In this time of grief, it is tradition for the Jewish people to listen to the voice of sacred scriptures that bring us the ever-new message of God's nearness. They bring us and remind us of our kinship with the Creator in light, as in this time of darkness, and joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. No set of words, no set of verses have been more with our people than the 23rd Psalm. Adonai roi lo achsar binotesha yarbitzeni. Amei menuchot yanchileni nafshi yeshovev. Yancheni b'maglei tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki elech begei tzal mavet. If you'd like to join with me in the English of the 23rd Psalm, you'll find it on the inside of your leaflet. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It is tradition during the month of Elul to read the 27th Psalm. It's no longer Elul, but Mickey made it clear that she wanted this psalm, especially one specific verse, read at her funeral. And as everyone who knows Mickey is aware, you're already laughing because you know the punchline. Mickey has a way of when she asks for something, you make sure that you find a way to make it happen. So I offer the 27th Psalm to honor Mickey's request and adding in a few words of my own. A Psalm of David. God is my light and my help. Whom should I fear? God is the stronghold of my life. Whom should I dread? Mickey was a woman of great faith in God and Jewish life and family and her synagogue community and in always of learning, all types of learning. She found light, help, stronghold in all these things, and she in turn gave light and a stronghold to so many people during her years. Bekarov alav mira'a le'echol et besarai tsarai v'yachol li hema kesarav v'nafalo. Verse 4 is the verse that she wanted specifically read. V'achad sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. One thing I ask of God, only that do I seek, to live in God's house all the days of my life, to gaze upon God's beauty, to frequent the temple. Well, Mickey may have known hardship like all in the 18 years that I was fortunate enough to know her. She only exuded positivity, professionalism, optimism, always beauty, always extreme grace, always class. This verse, which she asked to have read here at her funeral, she merited in her life. She gazed upon God's beauty with a large family, a congregational family, network upon network of friends, interest group upon interest group, constantly growing groups after group of learning, and always with beauty. This verse which she requested be read here at the time of her funeral, I watched be a part of life, always part of her life. For Mickey truly lived a life of holiness, truly lived a life of goodness and community. The psalmist goes on to say, Ki yibatzeni bitzuka biyom ra'a yistareni v'ata yarum roshi al oive sevatuni. Hear, O Eternal One, when I cry aloud, have mercy on me, answer me. In your behalf my heart says, seek my face, O Eternal One, I seek your face. Do not hide your face from me, do not thrust aside. You have ever been my help, do not forsake me, do not abandon me. Though God will take me in, show me your way, Eternal One, and lead me on a level path. Do not subject me to the will of my foes who have appeared before me. Mickey, you showed us how to live. You showed us how to live a life worth living, how to enjoy life, how to enjoy all of God's goodness. Look to God, be strong and of good courage. Oh, look to God. Mickey, you are already missed beyond these simple words of the psalmist. And what you taught us through your words, through your actions, and what you embodied all of your days. You gave us a life worthy of celebrating, a life which helps us be strong and of good courage now in your death. Zichrona livracha, may her memory always be a blessing. And let us all say, Amen. Birth is a beginning and death is a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, in health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death the destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death, a life everlasting.
In the book of Ecclesiastes, we read that there's a time to keep silent and a time to speak. We invite Mickey's granddaughters, Sarah, Stacy, and Rachel, to come forward now to offer words from their hearts.
Hi, I'm Rachel. This is Stacy and Sarah. We're here to talk about Roberta, Mickey, Mick, Mom, Grandma, Gigi. The volumes of names she had should tell you how many people she had in her life and how many people were affected by her presence. To us, she's Grandma. Grandma was one of the most welcoming people I've known. She didn't have 4 kids, she had 7. 13 grandkids, which includes our spouses. My own father, who is not her son, called her Mom. She had 3 great-grandkids. All this, but she always had room for more. More friends, more experiences, more life. Grandma tried and failed at retirement because she was never a person to be idle. She was constantly busy, working at the temple, playing mahjong, going on vacations, reading books. I could probably go on and on. Most people at 92 would probably be thankful for rest. Grandma, however, wouldn't even let a thing like cancer keep her from going to a beloved friend's birthday party. Up until recently, holidays were at her place. She'd have whoever she could get to come and cook far too much food because you can't really be a Jewish grandma unless you're telling the family to take food home. It's too much for her. Passovers were her favorite, and she'd always make the gefilte fish, matzo ball soup, and Passover rolls. I can't say I was willing to try the gefilte fish, but I think we all will miss her homemade food. More than the food, though, we'll miss her companionship and presence. She enjoyed going to Cubs games or the theater with her grandkids. She set up the annual family tradition of making dozens and dozens of latkes, a tradition now passed on to Stacy. Every birthday, we could expect to get a singing happy birthday delivered by herself. She loved us all, loved to her core. Today, we're here to show her that love was felt and reciprocated, and to honor her.
For those of you who don't know, my name's Stacy, and I'm one of Mickey's granddaughters. 3 years ago, my cousin Sloan and I signed Grandma up for Storyworth. If you're not familiar with Storyworth, it's a company that would send my grandma questions each week to have her answer. After 1 year of questions, it compiles her responses into a book that family members can then order. As of this month, she had only answered half the questions. One question she did answer, though, was, "What are your life mottos?" In her answer, Grandma included, "Don't sweat the small stuff, this too shall pass, everything happens for the best, and we will be known forever by the tracks we leave." This one, she said, was her favorite. We will be known forever by the tracks we leave. Based on the crowd here today, to honor her memory, I would say she definitely will be known for that. Grandma was active throughout her life, both physically and mentally. She loved to read, and I mean absolutely loved to read. She always had book recommendations and participated in many book discussions. As a previous paraprofessional in a school library, she had a knack for research and learning, which is also why it took her more than 3 years to answer 50 questions. We all like to say she was stubborn sometimes, but she would always just say she was being independent. I used to always joke that her social calendar was busier than mine, and it usually was. She loved the Cubs, and I'm so happy she finally got to see them win a World Series. She was an avid traveler, always going off on an adventure somewhere new. One of my favorite memories she shared about her travels was learning what the word commando meant after going whale watching in Iceland and getting wet, and she didn't bring a change of clothes. She said she wrote the word down to make sure she could tell my siblings and I about it when she got back. In her Storyworth book, Grandma also talked about her travels to China, Australia, and New Zealand in depth. I imagine all these countries were some of her favorites. One of my favorite traditions with Grandma was making latkes the Sunday after Thanksgiving. She was always so particular about having all parts of the food processor rinsed in between batches, never put in enough salt, as you can always add more, and usually never let anyone help clean her kitchen after we were done. She acted as our biggest cheerleader, always attending birthday parties, soccer games, school plays, and many Christian holidays. She even suffered through 3 Stevenson High School graduations, which, if you don't know, can be quite long, in a hot, unair-conditioned gym for grandchildren whose last name started with the letter T. I will always remember her as a woman who was considerate, thoughtful, tech-savvy to a certain extent, but that's where my cousin Matt comes in, and a pro at meticulously organizing her storage shed to the point where we were all so surprised nothing ever fell on top of her. She insisted all matzo ball soup be made from scratch with a capon chicken. She was a frequent customer of Dorfler's Meats, Shalom Bakery, New York Bagel and Bialy, and Apt, not ABT, but Apt. She was someone who could get a stain out of practically anything, enjoyed polishing her wooden doors, and liked being a singing grandma by singing happy birthday to you over the phone when she would call on your birthday. I purposely didn't answer her phone call this year, so I would have a voicemail of her singing. She was loved by many and had a significant influence on everyone she met. Much like my dad, she could walk into any room and usually find at least one person she knew. I feel like even small acquaintances would remember her. My best friend's mom once played mahjong with her. The HR woman who interviewed my brother for his job knew who my grandma was. When I worked in Skokie, I treated a patient who, unbeknownst to me at the time, had actually introduced my grandparents all those years ago, and I was able to get my grandma and him back in contact with each other. She truly had a zest for life, and she will be terribly missed. Although I am sad she's gone, I recognize how lucky I am to have known her for 36 years, and how lucky she was to live long enough to see so many changes, see all of her grandchildren grow up, and start to see a new generation of our family through her 3 great-grandchildren. May the memory of the track she left always keep reminding us to live life to the fullest and not sweat the small stuff.
Vivacious, smart, funny, witty, kind, enthusiastic, social butterfly, strong-willed, independent, fierce. All of these words describe Grandma, or Mickey, Mick, Mom, or Gigi to some, in a nutshell. Grandma was always there when I needed comfort or needed advice about something that was troubling me. She listened carefully and thoughtfully, providing me with her wise wisdom when needed. Grandma remained independent and fierce up until the day she passed away. She did it on her terms. It was her way or the highway. She was a true embodiment of what it means to be true to one's true self. When I first moved back to the Chicago area, Grandma was the first one to invite me over for dinner, elated that I was finally closer to her and could come over for dinner more often. Grandma loved to cook, and as this was one of her greatest attributes, I knew these dinners would become something of a routine for us. Eventually, due to our love of sports, Grandma became my football watching buddy, getting together on either a Saturday or Sunday and watching multiple football games, either rooting for Alabama, Illinois, or the Bears. Occasionally, we'd watch the Cubs or the White Sox, and I'm so glad she was able to witness the Cubs win the World Series in 2016. Before this occurred, she told me, "Sarah, I just want them to win before I die." And that sure did happen. During these times, I would bring my laundry with me and do it at Grandma's. She would always have a running bet on how many bags I would bring with me. While this might sound odd, it was a way for me to see my grandma more often and spend more time with her, which I loved. Of course, in exchange, she would have a few tasks for me to do for her, which I was happy to do. I am forever grateful that I was able to create these lifelong, lasting memories of Grandma: football, dinner, and laundry. After a few years of being back in the Chicagoland area and struggling to find groups of people to do things with, Grandma invited me to join her book club through Beth Am. Just like Grandma, I am an avid reader and enjoy a good book. She also was someone who didn't mind including others in something that she was involved in. Joining the Beth Am book group, although being the youngest in the group, allowed me to meet other people in the community and be a part of a great group of women discussing novels ranging from World War II to ancient China to the 1950s Dust Bowl era to more recently banned books. This was just another opportunity for me to spend time with my grandma, something I would never have thought about in my younger years. Grandma was one of my best friends and one of the most important people in my life. Whenever I talked about her to my friends, I always explained that she had a bigger social calendar than I did, and she had 2 calendars to hold all of the events or outings she had scheduled. Grandma was an avid member of Beth Am and many groups within the community: choir, book club, movie club, Torah portion readings, just to name a few. She attended lunches or dinners with friends, birthdays, weddings, bar bat mitzvahs, or events at Beth Am that she sometimes included with me. One event that I will never forget and has created a lasting memory was the bourbon and whiskey tasting that I attended with her and my dad. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined myself sampling bourbon and whiskey with my 91-year-old grandmother. Drinking wine or beer with her, sure. She always liked to try the beer I was drinking during football. That was okay, but whiskey and bourbon, that was definitely one for the books. But that's who Grandma was. A person who always was up to trying new things and constantly learning all throughout her lifetime. I remember when I taught Grandma how to use Instagram, teaching her how to post to her account, like other people's photos and stories, and know how to follow them. It always surprised me when she would text that whenever she would text, she would include emojis in her messages. I'm not sure she knew that these were called emojis, but she always knew which ones to use. When COVID hit, our book club decided to meet over Zoom, and I was the person to help teach Grandma how to use Zoom, including how to set it up and even schedule a meeting ahead of time. Most people who are older usually don't want to learn about the latest technologies, let alone try to use them, but that was not Grandma. She was always eager to learn new things, and in the words of my coworker, your grandma is probably one of the coolest people around. She not only uses social media, but also lives by herself and still drives and lives on her own. What an awesome person to know. Grandma lived a very long and full life. She was an avid traveler, often going on trips by herself, until she met a wonderful woman on one of her trips, thus becoming her travel buddy. Grandma was not afraid of doing things on her own, but also enjoyed doing things with others. As you can tell by all that are in this room, she really touched many lives and had a lasting impact on all. She has created many lifelong memories for not only myself, but also for my siblings, cousins, parents, aunts and uncles, as well as other family members. We will always remember holiday dinners, Passover being her favorite, our annual latke making tradition after Thanksgiving, Cubs games, family meals, pool time when we were younger, celebrating the other holidays as kids, as well as learning the tools for a long and healthy life. Grandma always said that the key to living a long life was to keep on moving and exploring all that life has to give you. Using a quote from one of her magnets on her fridge that I always would look at and seemed quite fitting for her, well-behaved women seldom make history. In closing, Grandma has touched many of our lives in one way or another, and she'll be sorely missed. While I am forever grateful and extremely lucky that I got to spend 39 years with this amazing woman, I have lost one of my best friends in life and someone who means a great deal to me. Her presence will be missed, but she will always be with us in one way or another. I will forever miss my football buddy, and watching football will not be the same without her. Using the words that Grandma would always say to me after I let her know I was home, "Grandma, I love you to the moon and back, and then some."
Mickey was a role model, and she always made us feel special. She lifted our spirits at work. She reminded us of what was really important. She was a perfectionist who taught us well. And she was an integral part, as we've already heard, of the Beth Am family. At Beth Am, Mickey was a choir member, our librarian, our book group leader, our Oneg organizer, our B'nai Mitzvah organizer, a clergy confidant, our teacher, and our mentor. She was a matriarch of the congregation, and her life lessons, her friendship, her love for us, for each of us, and our synagogue, was and is sustaining and a gift from the deepest part of her heart. Each of us has our own stories and memories of Mickey Capsuto. I hope we can share more together at the Shiva tonight at Continental and tomorrow at Beth Am. Mickey's light and her love remains with us in the way that it can through us. And so in this way, the world remains a better, a brighter place because she was in it. Mickey was a good woman, a righteous person. May her name and her memory be for us, for Israel, and all the world a blessing. Together a few moments ago, we offered Psalm 23, which reminds the mourners that we are never alone. This next prayer, El Malei Rachamim, is a prayer only for Mickey, that she continue to be received with great love and compassion. If you're able, please rise. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim Utoharim Kezohar, Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Rachel Bat Tzvi Velea, Shacha Le'olama, Baal Harachamim, Yasireha Beseter Kenafav Le'olamim, Veitzur Bitzur HaChayim, Et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachalata, Betanuach Beshalom Al Mishkava V'nomar. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Roberta, Mickey, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. We say together, Amen.
Thank you, friends. You may be seated for just a moment. Friends, this concludes our service here at the chapel. Interment will take place immediately at the family plot at Shalom Memorial Park. The family will be sitting Shiva this evening at the Continental Restaurant, 788 South Buffalo Grove Road in Buffalo Grove from 6 to 9 p.m. That information is available on the folder received on the way in. If you did not receive one, there are some available on the way out. Memorials in Mickey's memory can be made to the Mickey Capsuto Adult Learning Fund of Congregation Beth Am, That information is on the folder as well. For those joining the family will be in procession to the cemetery. One will be forming just outside the funeral home parking lot. For those in procession, please make sure you obtain an orange funeral safety sticker, which can be placed on the inside windshield portion of your vehicle. For an additional measure of safety, our staff will place magnetic flags on the rooftop portions of your vehicle. While in procession to the cemetery, please make sure your bright lights and hazard lights are on at all times. Please drive as closely to the car in front of you as safety permits. Want to avoid any large gaps, especially as we go through procession. Please use your horn very liberally, especially as we go through intersections. Please make sure you stay off your cell phone while en route to the cemetery. The following individuals have been honored to serve as pallbearers. When I call your names, if you could please rise and stand next to the casket. Stacy, Sarah, Ross, Leslie, Alan, and Matt. At this time, if I could ask everyone to please rise as we escort the family and the casket as well as the clergy from the chapel.